All right, looks like we're live. I'm here with Jeff Thompson. He's one of the engineers and the technical liaison of Berty. And Berty, they actually are a engineering team, a crew that's put out some really cool software for Gno.land. In the past, they made a really cool peer-to-peer chat application. And they're working on Gno.land now as part of our grant program, and they're working on oh, it actually got rebranded to Gno Native Kit, right?
That's
So
right. I can talk a little bit about that when you want.
Sure, yeah. Let's start with that because a lot of people know about GnoMobile, but they don't understand the rebrand.
Yeah, maybe I'm a heavy screen sharer type. So let me, if that possible, share my screen.
Yeah, totally. Perfect.
Okay. So, as everybody knows, we have journeys, and this is the end of our GnoMobile journey. But one of the last things we did was renamed it to Gno Native Kit. You can read this, but I will summarize that our original goal was to demonstrate, based on our experience with the Berty messaging app, that it's possible to run Go code on a mobile phone. And of course, the core of Gno.land is all written in Go. And so we have demonstrated that you can run it on the mobile, and we turned that into a toolkit. And it turns out, and the toolkit gives you access to the core Go code from other languages like JavaScript or Java or Swift or C# or even Go again. And that turned out to be much more useful than just running on a mobile. It's useful in other environments. So we had a great meeting last week with everyone and decided on the new name to expand it so that it's not just focused on mobile. So I'll read this blurb. The Gno Native Kit is short for a toolkit to use the core Gno code from your app's native programming language. Through the magic of gRPC, which is a communication layer between Go and other languages. We have renamed the repository and all this neat stuff. So we're at a transition point from this project, which we'll continue working on a small scale. But we're going to be moving on to Gno Social, which we can talk about later also. So let me stop sharing.
Okay, that's great.
So we have a lot going on.
Yeah, we'll definitely dive into that pretty soon. But it's cool to know that you guys rebranded to sort of be more inclusive of like what the functionality of the platform is.
But when you want, I can give you a demo of how our example app uses the toolkit in a little mobile demo that communicates with the message board realm on the mainnet.
Okay. Cool. I'll write that down for later.
Great.
I actually kind of wanted to start off the interview with just a bit of your background so people that don't know who you are can kind of get an idea where you're coming from.
Okay. You can see from all the gray hair that I've been doing this for a while. I worked on some of the first cryptography toolkits. That was in Silicon Valley. And later I had work on in an industrial environment, automating a production facility. That was all proprietary code. So in 2013, I left the corporate world and decided I only wanted to work on public research projects and open source code. So that was a happy moment for me. At that point, I got involved in a networking project at UCLA, which actually turned out to be very relevant to what Berty does. That project was an attempt to really replace the IP protocol of the internet with a peer-to-peer layer called named data networking, which actually has very similar ambitions to IPFS. IPFS is the interplanetary file system, which many people may have heard of, and it's also heavily used in Berty. These are all ways of moving information around on the internet without moving it to a centralized server. So that was really interesting. So that scratched that itch for me, and also got me into open source. And when I moved to France, as a living choice, I was still doing that remotely, but then I came across Berty about a year and a half ago at one of the peer-to-peer conferences, and we really got along great. And so now I work for Berty full-time.
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, I've looked into Berty a little bit, like the actual messaging app, and the way that it works is it takes your message, puts it on IPFS, and then reads it, right?
More or less. In fact, let me share my screen again. There is, we can put this in the links to this video later, but there's a really great video that they made a couple years ago. It's on the IPFS channel, but it's all about Berty's tech and also their origin story and their philosophy. And I screenshotted, well, I stopped this because this is a really cool part. This is a high quality production, and they're actually kind of showing how messages move around on your mobile and end up on someone else's mobile. And it was one of the engineers talking about the details, and it's a really great video. So of course we're not going to play it now. You know, Berty was originally founded, let me go back to the nice screenshot. Berty was originally founded as based on a protocol. So people identify Berty with the messaging app, but it's really based on something called Berty protocol. You can sort of see it here, which is there's a white paper, and it describes in detail how you can set up the messages so that it's secure to move them between phones without having to store them on a central server, or more importantly, without having to have a central authority handing out user accounts. And what we've done in the last year with Berty is try to return to our roots with the protocol. And so we pulled out the protocol and renamed it WESH protocol, and started writing blog posts about how you can use WESH. We sort of productized it as its own standalone utility that can be used for any environment where you want to have communication without having to go through a centralized server. So it's the protocol which has been powering the Berty Messenger all along, but we want to move it out. And in fact, it's related to Gno.land because at the tail end of our next project, we want to see if we can use WESH protocol as another way to perform some of the operations inside a Web3 app offline. So without having to directly communicate with the blockchain, so that it could work in other environments where you don't have the internet. So we're going to try to tie all this together at some point.
Cool, that's actually really exciting. Yeah, you said it's going to be like sort of foundational for Gno Social.
That WESH protocol is not going to be foundational for Gno Social, but it is going to be an option we want to experiment with later on.
Cool. So before you were working for Berty, or like as part of it, did you have any experience with Cosmos, or is Gno kind of your first entry point?
This is my first exposure to Cosmos and Tendermint and all of that. I wasn't working professionally on blockchain projects, but I was certainly following them. For example, I have been running a Cardano node for quite a while, just to understand how that works and trying to learn how the wallets work. So I was not coming in cold to Gno. I did understand what the blockchains were and what smart contracts are trying to solve. And I mean, the big selling point for me about Gno is obviously the simplicity of the smart contract language. I did get scared away by Ethereum's language, and Cardano uses Haskell. And I know Haskell, it's really cool, but it's very difficult to use. So I definitely got sold right away on this fantastic idea of you write Go code and in your global variables are persisted. I think that's brilliant.
So you were already experienced with Go then?
Oh yeah, and much more at Berty, but I had been using it a little bit. Everything at Berty is written in Go, just like with Gno.land. So
cool, perfect. Yeah, that's some good alignment. So actually, could you tell us a bit of the origin story of Berty? You said you got hired in a little later, but
yeah, I'm a latecomer. But the original white paper for the Berty protocol, which we now call the WESH protocol, was written in 2018. And the company was founded by Manfred, and in his previous life.
Yeah.
And he already knew a group of engineers from other projects, and there was and still is a need for a way for people to communicate without the centralized servers. That video I showed you gives a lot of the rationale that it's obvious to people from Gno.land and other places why you want decentralized apps, but Berty was trying to solve the same problem also, which is these tools are incredibly useful, but they're just 10% harder to use than what's up, and that's enough to make 99% of the world to not want to bother with them. Sure. And so one of the cool things about Berty app is you could just sort of install it and it would sort of go right away. And so there's the foundational protocol underneath, and there's a lot of effort into the user interface. And we're trying to bring that same experience to the projects we're doing at Gno.land also.
Cool.
One of the big goals of Gno.land, I understand it, is to write a killer social media app that everybody will want to use. What we're doing right now with Gno Social is not trying to write that app, but trying to create a test bed in order to experiment with all the problems that are going to arise, trying to build that app. So to try out different ways of storing messages. How do you store millions of messages without, gumming up the blockchain and stuff? And so that's related to the origins of Berty. It's never about just making a cool app. It's about thinking big about what the fundamental technical problems are and a way to solve it in a way that is not too difficult for developers to pick up.
Cool. That kind of leads into my next thought. A big part of it is like with Gno.land, we have to do a lot of prototyping. We have to make sure that a lot of the tools that are going to be needed by developers are already in place and functioning correctly. So with the evolution of Gno Native Kit, previously known as GnoMobile, did you have any cool insights or inspiration to share while the platform was being developed?
That's a good question. So with Gno Native Kit, we were kind of clients of Realms. So for this project, we didn't have to write Realm code. We didn't have to deal with Realm packaging and updating and stuff. We will be getting into that with the next phase. But that was a nice way to get into the project. So that was pretty easy. As far as the infrastructure goes, I was fairly pleased with the Gno devs responding to our pull requests. As part of our project, it's Gno Native Kit. The kit means toolkit. It's a toolkit, and it provides an API. And there already were APIs inside the Gno system, which weren't really being used, right? Because up until now, people were mainly running the Gno through the command line apps like GnoKey and things like that. So I think what we did is we sort of raised the importance of these internal APIs and exposed them so that applications can call them more directly. And we got a lot of really nice feedback with that. Part of the Gno system is when the client sends a transaction to the blockchain, it does that through a protobuf. I don't know if you've covered protobuf earlier in your fireside chats and stuff.
No, feel free to talk about
it. There's part of the Gno.land ecosystem is something called Amino, which is an implementation of working with protobuf definitions with Go. And so we needed that also, and we needed to add a few new features to it. So we submitted pull requests to that, and there was some nice discussion, and they were merged. So that was a nice experience also. When you want, I can jump into some more screenshots about what we mean by the API.
Yeah, sure. It's probably a good time to sort of give some context to everything.
Okay.
Before you do, though, I was actually kind of curious. So a lot of these tools, like some of them were already in Gno.land, they just weren't being used, and you kind of just put them all together into an awesome toolkit. Are these tools going to be useful for your development of GnoSocial?
Well, absolutely. GnoSocial is going to be built on top of Gno Native Toolkit. Thanks,
Okay,
Gno
cool.
Native Kit. Thanks for asking. Yeah, and the reason I can just show you is, let me share a screen again.
Sure.
So we talked about this. When you use gRPC, the G stands for Google Protobufs, and RPC stands for Remote Procedure Call. And so if you have oops, that's not a very good screen to show, is it? Let me run this guy again so that he's not. So when a gRPC client in some language sends a message to be executed, it sends that message as a protobuf. And protobuf is this infrastructure which has existed in many other places. Like I said, Gno itself uses it for interacting with the blockchain. And so you define little data structures like this, and they define the structure of the request and response, and that goes through an API. So when we say that we've wrapped it, what that means is, internally, Gno.land has a lower level API you can call to invoke the render function on the blockchain. And so this is really a thin layer on top of the functionality that already exists in the core Go code. But this is an example of what you get is a nice API documentation. And if I click on render here, then it jumps down here, and it shows you that if you want to render something, you can create a little message with a package path and the arguments, and you'll get back the result. And so what this means is inside your code, so I'm going to maybe confuse you, but this is calling that function from JavaScript here inside a little mobile app. This is calling that function from inside a little command line Go application. The whole point is you can build a protocol buff object in whatever language you're using, Java, Swift, C#, anything. And then you just send it to the Gno Native Kit server, and it will take care of interacting with the blockchain. And this example is, if I click this function, it will call the render function from our little sample app, and it'll bring back the result back into the app. This is the same thing you get if you are on the, I'm screwing up here. This is the same thing you would get with the web interface. I'm hoping some of this is familiar to you, right?
Yeah.
This is the web interface to the message board realm. And but this web interface is just a wrapper for calling the render function. And so it displays it here. The point is you get the same thing if you call the same render function from an app.
Yeah.
And it goes through these simple layers. Just to complete the demo, I'm going to run a, let me turn off this app here. I'm going to do the same thing on the command line. I'm going to run a simple command line based, yes, thank you.
You're going to call the render through the CLI?
Right. Live demo. Let me see if I can kill this. Is this going to start? No. Live demo. Here we go. So this is the little server that's listening on a TCP port. And then this is a Go command line app. You might say, well, you know, the core Go code is already, core Gno code is already written in Go. So why would you, and you can call it directly, so why would you want to go through another interface? Well, it's because these API definitions really unify and help simplify the process and provide you with other features which are useful. So here is the entire command line app. We're going to connect to that server by connecting to our local host. And then we're going to call the render function by building a little message with the arguments. Here's the function we want to call on the render, and here are the arguments. And so when I run this, again, we get back the same information, the rendering of that web page. So here's this is showing you a couple different ways in which you can get the same information depending on your application development environment.
It's great because it lets developers have a lot of flexibility, you know, with what their background is or what they're experienced with, and they can continue to use the tools.
Yeah.
So are these tools like available for people to interact with right now?
They are. There is, after our renaming, the, let me share my screen again. I don't want to dominate.
Well, I'll put that in the show notes too, so people can check it out.
Yeah, I can send you all these links later. So this is the GitHub project. It's part of GNO.land. Now it's called Gno Native. It used to be called GnoMobile. Now it's called Gno Native. And here's our little README. So the best place to get started is here. Here are, well, you can use these build instructions if you want to build the gRPC server. Really the best place to start would be the examples folder. So here is the examples folder. Here's that Go command line app that I just showed you. And each of these has a little README that tells you how to run it. And And these are separated out by the language of the client. So we have Go clients. This is React Native, which is that JavaScript I was showing you. This is the Gno board app, which builds what I was just showing you. So this is kind of a full-fledged throw in, all the things into the kitchen sink there. And then there are also skeleton apps. So this hello skeleton apps just calls the render function, and we have readmes to tell you how to deploy these if you're doing React Native and get them set up. So that's really the best place to start is the repo with the examples.
Oh, perfect.
The demo app that I showed you also has neat features like wallet functions. You can create an account. You can select a network. We took a lot of inspiration from the Adena wallet from OnBlock. Have you had a Fireside with them yet?
Yeah, we have. Yeah, we did OnBlock.
Great.
I think 3 months ago or so.
Yeah. So and they've been really helpful too.
Yeah, they've been awesome. Cool. I have a couple more just kind of like background questions.
Okay.
Why did Berty choose to build on Gno? You kind of touched on it a bit. Like everything they do is Go based, but
yeah. Well, we do have the connection through Manfred, so we found out about the project from him, and it really fit our needs. I mean, we already are a heavy Web3 focused organization, and already know about Go. We as an organization, we didn't have a lot of experience with blockchain stuff. One of the first things we did, and that shows on our journey, is we ran the getting started examples, and we did some pull requests there to clean it up and to make it more easy to use for complete newbies coming to it. So that was nice. Nice because the examples were clear on how to get started, and nice because we got a response when we submitted a pull request, and they said great, and they merged it.
Nice. So you've been finding it like very collaborative.
Oh yeah,
that's great.
We're just about to go to a retreat this week in France. So yeah, lots of collaboration.
Pretty important engineering retreat happening soon, huh?
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. So I was kind of wondering, you kind of answered it a little bit earlier. Like, I guess one question that I think some people might have is like, what kind of target audience does GnoNativeKit appeal to? And do you see any specific use cases that might sort of come to fruition in the next couple of months using the tools there?
Well, the target audience of a toolkit is developers. So we're not doing end users or the general population. This is developers who are interested in developing on Go on Gno, and might initially look at it and see, oh well, I'm not a Go developer. I'm a React Native developer. Part of our outreach project, you'll probably ask more about our outreach, but that is the task at hand, is to try to make sure that people hear about the toolkit so that they can be at ease that whatever is the native language of their app, that they will still be able to integrate with Gno.land. And so our target audience is new developers coming to the Gno.land ecosystem.
So originally you had called the app GnoMobile.
Yeah.
I think kind of that was like where the question was stemming from. Is this like, do you see this toolkit being sort of targeted at people that come from a Web2 environment that are already developing mobile applications, or is this kind of
Well, mobile or desktop applications.
Uh-huh.
That's why we wanted to expand it. I just showed you, a command line desktop app. If
Yeah.
people are programming in Electron, for example, there's a lot of apps that are based on Electron, which is a JavaScript framework. Those are desktop apps. But again, the reason people use these things is quite often, if you have Signal or Discord, you have a desktop app, but then you also want the same functionality on mobile.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why people write these frameworks, and that's why we target them, so that you can get it to run on mobile if you need to. But you can also write for the desktop.
Cool. Can you provide technical details about the Gno Native Kit? A little bit more of like the architecture and the key technologies behind it.
I wasn't quite ready there, but I'm going to try to quickly find and pull up our little diagram that was in our proposal that we did for the project. I think I can find that quickly. Bing. Issues closed. Yeah. Voila. All right. I'm allowed to say voila. Let me share my screen again. So this is available. This is our original project proposal for GnoMobile, which is now Gno Native Kit. So this gives some context to all these terms and jargon I've been spitting out. Underneath is the core GNO code that we all know and love, that already exists. This package in Go, keys.keybase, is all the wallet functions for creating accounts and setting passwords and using them to sign transactions. This is a new API which showed up just when we started, which is called Gno Client. And it has the API for interacting with the blockchain. There is a function in there called render. There's a function called eval. There's a function called call, where you actually call a realm function which updates the state. And it has abstractions for the transports and the ways in which you would sign the transactions. So on top of that, there's some Go code that's in Gno Native Kit, which is in the gRPC server. So there's a gRPC server and a gRPC client. And this is written in Go, and it interacts directly with the underlying packages. But it's the thing that's just sitting there waiting for a function to be called, using one of those little protobuf messages. And so the gRPC communication happens with protobuf objects that are passed back and forth. And then here the client can be in any language, React Native, Java, Swift, etc. And this is where our target audience is, the people who are developing applications, where all they need to do is start a gRPC server somewhere and have their client send little messages to it.
Okay. So you've kind of abstracted away that middle part that's like the communications layer to make sure that the apps are able to interact with the Gno.land, I guess, servers. That's right. The Gno Native Kit is just a thin layer on top of these APIs, which are the real workhorse. But of course, to give a little more details, these are all written in Go. So when you interact with one of these methods, you have to pass it a Go structure, or you have to pass it a Go callback or something like that. And of course, you can't do that from Java directly. Mm-hmm. So these messages just use simple data types, string or integer, or a list of strings or a list of integers. And the server takes care of maintaining
instances of the Go objects that the underlying code needs, and provides just a simple translation layer between them. So this is really just a thin wrapper. But if I jump back here, all these function names are the same function names that exist in these underlying APIs. If you were to look into keys keybase, you would see something called get QInfo by name. If you were to look into the GNO client, you would see something called QEval. So it's just a thin wrapper that enables you to interact with that Go code from other native languages.
So when you guys were building this, did you find any notable challenges sort of integrating this with Gno.land?
Let's see. One of the reasons I mentioned that luckily we didn't have to write any Realm code yet, because that's a lot of that is still a work in progress. So we didn't have issues there. The only real issues that we had when we got dealt with, which is the amino toolkit, like I said. We needed to beef it up so that it would carry enough information after you ran the amino convert, for example, so that the comments would be carried through, or that it would spell these, it's just little things, so they would spell these field names with lowercase in the way that is expected by the protobuf code. So those are actually really relatively minor, but I know that the design philosophy of GNO project is minimal, right? They don't want bloat. And so I think it's nice that we found a way to convince them that we could add a little bit of extra functionality as an optional feature without having to get in the way of the streamlined basic functionality that they want.
So some of it was kind of like visionary challenges, like sort of finding a middle ground for like what some of these functions are supposed to do and what the minimalism that they want. Right,
exactly. Staying true to the minimalist approach, which I agree with. This layer also was quite nice, the GNO client. It provides an abstraction. It can use multiple communication methods for talking to the blockchain, and it actually can use multiple key bases. So not necessarily one which stores the keys on disk, but it'll also work if storing them in memory or storing them on a hardware device. And so luckily that was kind of just right when we got here. If it wasn't, we would have had to push back, but the GNO client design was quite nice.
Perfect. One of my questions was, are there other educational resources available for those interested in GnoNativeKit? You have the README. Is there like a docs page or anything else?
Well, there are, we have many videos on the journey. So,
oh yeah, I've seen those.
And each of them is pretty short, like 3 minutes, 5 minutes. And so if you just remember to think GnoNativeKit every time you see GnoMobile, then the videos are useful. Yeah, that and the examples folders of the main repo is the place to go.
Okay. Perfect. And so I feel like this next question, the question is, in what ways does GnoNativeKit contribute to the growth of Gno.land? I feel like you kind of covered that, but maybe we can tie this into No Social.
Well, I don't want to name any names, but there's some of the other partners, and I think we're convincing. So the bigger picture is, someone's writing an app, and they come to Gno.land and they don't see what they want. So a lot of people on their own have been writing their own toolkits for interacting with Gno.land. And so a near term, like within the next few weeks, win is if we convince one or two of the other projects that had started porting all the Go code into their app's native language, right? And I think we might be able to convince them that, well, you don't need to do that. You can use Gno Native Kit. One of our recent videos was one comparing Gno Native Kit to the TM2.js JavaScript. And one of the big arguments for using Gno Native Kit is that, well, I will share my screen again and pop back that same diagram. The advantage of using Gno Native Kit as opposed to these other attempts to just sort of hand code all the functionality you need is that this is the core Go code, right? That you know the dozen Gno devs are working on and debugging and keeping up to date and putting their latest knowledge into. So when there's a new feature that the blockchain can do, or there's a change in the way it, you know, computes the transaction or something like that, if the API signature hasn't changed, Gno Native Kit will instantly use the new code. If something new comes along, because Gno Native Kit is just a thin wrapper, we'll be able to come up with another, you know, function call, if necessary, that or add another field to an existing message and instantly get access to all this new functionality. Whereas if instead, if you're writing an app in Java and you spent, you know, 4 weeks porting all the Go code into Java, maybe that's working great and you've been moving forward, but then if there's new functionality in the core Go code, you have more work to do. Whereas if you use Gno Native Kit and just agree to use this little layer for the gRPC communications, then all you have to do is update your, you know, update to the latest version of Gno Native Kit, and you'll instantly get access to that.
Okay.
So that's big
so is that
selling
something
point.
you guys are going to be maintaining?
Oh yeah, because we're, like I said, we're using it in the next project, which is Gno Social, this test bed for experimenting with. It's sort of like a Twitter app, right? It's going to have users and feeds and follow and you know likes and you know hashtags and stuff like that. Again, not building the end user app that's going to kill the world, you know, conquer the world, the killer app, but it will be using this underneath. So we are one of the first customers of this, and like I said, I think we might be able to get some of the other partner projects to use it too.
Yeah, to sort of understand it better and realize that it saves them a whole lot of time.
Yeah, that's the idea.
And the other cool part about you guys having built this means that you understand it like through and through. So building the social app will give you a lot of insight as to like what are the fastest, easiest tools that you can use to build it. But also if you need something, you just put it together and build it and add it to the kit.
That's right.
That's cool. So, I mean, on that topic, are you, do you have any like upcoming features or milestones in the roadmap for the kit itself, or would you kind of consider it sort of like it's on the back burner for now while you work on those social, and then if you find needs, then you put those into the kit?
It's like you said, we will be updating, Native Kit as needed. The other thing that we are still doing is we'll continue to add examples, right? We want to do a desktop Electron example. That's going to go in there pretty soon. And we already do have available the Java and Swift clients. So we want to do a couple simple examples there. We want to flesh out the examples directory with all the client languages that we support.
So how do you how do you guys plan to sort of engage the community in using the Gno Native Kit? Like, will there be more videos, or we just kind of hope that it catches on and like let people demonstrate it as they use it?
It's more direct interaction. We want to set up meetings with each of the partners and find out, what they would expect from the toolkit, and see if we can make sure that it provides that. And also videos, or maybe an event of some kind. I'm sure that the GNO project itself will grow, and so in a few months we want to be in a position to kind of have a dedicated event where we try to raise awareness of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like even some like demonstrations of taking an existing app, albeit simple or whatever, like let's say chess or checkers or something that's already coded in JavaScript, and then being able to port it and showing how much the tool makes the process easier.
That's interesting. We haven't broached this idea with the GNO chess devs yet, but as that matures as a product and they want it to run on desktop and mobile, we clearly will be trying to sell the idea that it should be straightforward to shift over. Right now, they're doing a kind of a pure Go client, but the minute they might want it to run on other development environments which aren't Go, then I'm sure that we will be first in line to suggest that they try out our toolkit.
Yeah, I remember they had a bit of an issue with the mobile version of it.
Yeah.
It was kind of a bummer. So, I mean, that would be cool to see that work out. Cool. Well, we're almost at the hour. I kind of have some like final sort of future thinking kind of questions. Was there anything else you wanted to bring up or demonstrate?
Well, I could show a little bit more of our example app in action if you want.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the thing I just turned off because it was interfering. So let me turn that back on real quick. Let's see if I can do this without screwing up. Click, click, click. All right. Let me share my screen again. Let me get a drink of water before we do that. Voila, much better. Okay, voila. They all sound the same to me.
Water, walla.
Share. Too many languages in my head. Here we are. So this has some wallet functions and also something to interact with the network. So let's start from the first. If you want to create a new account, you generate a seed phrase, and I'm going to copy this seed phrase. Let's see if I can copy it. And we're going to give it a new user, like demo user, and give it a password. Give it a really short password. Demo user. This already has some nice features, like if the passwords don't match, it'll tell you. So you want it to match, you make them match. So now it is going to create an account. If we look into switch accounts, I already have this Jeff T0 account. It just created demo user.
Cool.
Just for fun, I'm going to blast it and recreate it. So we're going to blast it. And this is a API function, remove account. And now instead of create, I can import, and we can import from that same seed phrase. demo user again. And you can choose a different password. So it's, as you know, the cool thing about these wallet accounts is they are completely determined by the phrase, right? So if you use the same phrase again, it'll recreate the same account. And there it is. Up here, you will notice that since it's a new account, the blockchain doesn't know about it. Let me switch accounts to one that I already have. And this is telling me that I just started the app, so it doesn't remember my password. This is another API function. If we were to look through this list of stuff, one of the API functions is get key info by name, and you can find out whether you have the password or not. Why doesn't it? Yeah. So we can import it, and now this is interesting. It's made a query to the blockchain using one of our other. I should be up here. There is a query account API function, which is one of the things that's down here. It's again, it is an existing low-level API that we provide access to. I'll do an interesting thing. So this is our testnet that we're running on our Berty server. So that's how many Gno I have. If I just happen to also have coins on the main testnet 3. So if I switch over there, this shows me how many coins I have on that blockchain. So and this is easy to do with all these API functions. I'm going to change back. Now I'm going to actually interact with this board. So we have a developer screen, and I'm going to say hello from Gno Native. Oops. Kit. And we're going to send that. So this is using another API function called call, and there it is. If I refresh this page, then our message has now been added to the board.
Cool.
Likewise, we can call the local render, and the same message is here. So that's pretty much it. All of those were the demo app is a React Native user interface on top of these these API messages. And
does that app use most of these?
It does, actually. Here's where you can change your remote you're communicating with. Here's where you can create a recovery phrase. You can check whether the account is already there or not. That's kind of used here. If I so I have this demo user again, or Jeff T0. If I try to create a new account, and if I try to give it, this makes a quick call to get key info by name to see if the thing already exists, and it does, and you can decide whether you want to blast it or not. So it's using these create account, change passwords. I already showed you query account, render, call, and some utility functions, and some demos. Yeah, and that's really all you need. I'm sure we're going to be adding a few more as we work on Gno Social, having to do with some more details about setting up transactions and tracking them and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe even a high-level function, to actually interact with the Realm code itself for some reason we may discover we need. But that's it.
Cool, that's exciting. Hey Jeff, what do you enjoy the most about contributing to Gno, and how do you see Berty's collaboration impacting the ecosystem in the future?
Well, I can answer the second one more easily. We hope to contribute by anticipating a lot of the problems that other devs would have. So we're the Gno Social project is really not about building a social app. It's about stress testing Gno.land itself. And we've had a lot of experience stress testing the Berty messenger. We know how to set up, test environments and stuff like that. And so we need to find out where Gno.land will break, and then interact with the devs to see whether that's something which needs to be fixed or not, or is it a bug or a feature? So I look forward to that because again, the team is really great. Lots of smart, dedicated people that are very responsive.
That's awesome. It's cool to hear that. Since you kind of have firsthand experience now, if other people were interested in joining Gno.land or the grants program, what kind of steps or qualifications would you recommend to get them there?
Well, go through the getting started example to see if it scares you away or not.
That's fair.
That is, I think I have it up. That is, where is it? Oh shoot, is it still here? Anyways, I can't find it. But it's when you go to the main README in Gno, you end up there. And try writing a little realm. Just now, maybe you're going to have another fireside chat about this, but well, there's the Gno.land playground now. That's really also where you should start. I mean, that's just getting up and running, but the whole purpose of that is to make the entry level a lot simpler. And obviously, one should also go there. So go there, try writing a realm. I enjoyed watching Morgan's video about Gno chess, but that might be a little bit higher level than someone getting started. But that's also a neat place to go.
Yeah, cool. And my last question for you, Jeff, what are you personally looking forward to the most with Gno.land?
Well, obviously to see whether they have found the secret sauce for making a blockchain environment start up. And actually, what I like is a lot of the other people in this project have the same frustration I do, that most blockchain applications are all about the blockchain. They're crypto exchanges or NFT this or other tools for interacting with the blockchain, like an explorer and stuff like that. But how to break out of that so that someone is using an app that they don't even know is running on a blockchain, or don't have to care, and they don't have to care about goofing around with crypto coins. That has been part of the vision from the beginning, and obviously I'm looking forward to see whether they can get that to leap forward. Well, not they, us, that we can get it.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's totally a we thing. Anyone watching this is probably interested in contributing, so totally a we thing.
Yeah, I mean, mainnet launch coming up. Part of what we're doing with Gno Social is trying to stress test the blockchain before mainnet, and so I will be very pleased if it launches on the current schedule. But these things may get delayed. It'll absolutely happen next year, though. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Awesome, Jeff. I actually really enjoyed the chat, and really appreciate your time and your insight. And actually, we should catch up on this in 3 or 4 months and see how you're doing with Gno Social.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thanks for your time, Jeff.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, ciao.